Hello, Dan Tokar here at the Willow Forge in Shepherdstown, West Virginia. Today I'm going to kind of continue with the Blacksmith Dictionary with more techniques, basic techniques that really will help you progress. There's a great word. One of the hardest things for people to learn by themselves is how to forge weld. And quite often people pick things that are way too difficult. In order to make this an easier first exercise in forge welding, we're going to start with a piece of stock that's not too small and not too big, so it'll be easy to heat up, but not so easy to burn up, because that's either getting it too cold or not hot enough, or too hot, and it either melts or burns up is the problem. So this is a piece of 3/8 inch stock, and it's long enough, about 2.5 feet long, so that I won't need a pair of tongs, so there'll be less complication. And what I'm going to do is hairpin this back and take about the length of my hand, about 7 inches or so, and turn it back on itself, and forge weld about 3.5–4 inches of that. And then we're going to take a bandsaw and cut right through the part that's welded and show you that it is welded together. Anyway, I'm going to have to change filters on the camera and set up so you have a closer view of that. Hold on. Okay, the first thing you should know is that you should have a fairly deep bed of coke with a little bit of green coal on top so that you get an atmosphere that's fairly reducing. And I'm just going to stick this in the ritual hole of the anvil. Bend it over. Very gently. This is a round rod, and one reason that that's easier to do a forge weld on is that it's got a natural scarp to it. The shape of the rod will let the flux escape. A lot of people who have trouble with forge welding have two problems. They either don't have a pathway for the flux to escape. You need to have some way for that stuff to get out, and or they don't know that flux is not glue. You want just a tiny bit of flux on there. You don't want to put a huge amount. You see how that flux is actually kind of melting right as it goes into contact? You want just a thin, glassy layer over the area that you're going to weld. See? A little bit of 20-multene borax. Now, I'm using soft coal, bituminous coal that I have coked up. There are an awful lot of people who ask me whether I use anthracite coal at any point. And I have one thing to say about anthracite is it might be something good to heat a house with, but it's horrible forging coal because there aren't enough volatiles in it. It doesn't coke up, so you quite often have a bad atmosphere because the bituminous coal, the soft coal, as it cokes, has enough volatiles that the atmosphere will protect. You'll have, just like in a cutting torch, you have, down near the bottom, you have an oxidizing layer of the fire, then you have a neutral part of the fire in the middle, and then at the top, you have a reducing layer. And when you're forge welding, you should have a fire that's deep enough so that when you're level in there, the zone that your work is in is either neutral or very slightly reducing. If you're in the oxidizing area, there's a good chance that you'll start to burn the metal even if you've got flux. The other thing is, you notice I've put my apron on because in forge welding you will get flux splattering out and you don't want to burn your clothes up. I'll wear a glove on my left hand and I'm wearing my glasses, but if you don't wear glasses, you should wear a pair of safety glasses or goggles because one of the few times I've ever gone into the emergency room was from getting tiny bits of flux bouncing around and into my eye, and you don't want to know what it is to get a doctor to take an insulin needle and scrape something that has scorched itself to your eyeball. But anyway, so now I put this in the fire. It's in that central area. It has to get hot enough. The plastic welding, the forge welding range for mild steel is somewhere around 2,400, 2,500 degrees. You can think of it as that the more carbon there is in steel, the lower the melting point. So the forge welding range is generally at least 100 degrees below the melting point. So things like wrought iron, you can weld at a bright yellow heat at maybe 2,500, 2,600 degrees. Mild steel is maybe 2,400, 2,500 degrees on the upper range. But high carbon steel, like files and tool steels, can weld at temperatures around 2,100, 2,000 degrees. And you're also allowed to poke little holes in the fire so you can see whether the thing's heating evenly or what color it is. In this case, it's going to be a nice, cheerful light yellow. And one of the other indicators with borax is that when the borax begins to get very hot and disassociate, you'll get a slight color change in the fire. There'll be sort of an orangey yellow. Oh, there was a spark. You have to be careful of that too. I'm about ready. So you have to work fast. You can't have to have your hammer in your hand. You only get a few seconds. Right now I'm more forming and consolidating. That's about as much time. I'm going to do what's called an insurance weld. This will also give you a second chance to see what a forge weld looks like. Because there's nothing that says, as long as you've got enough thickness and you have not melted the metal, you can always go back and weld it again. And depending, it's okay to take an insurance weld. You'd rather have two modest welding heats than one heat that's way too hot. The other reason that I recommended using something like a piece of 3/8 inch round stock for this is that there's enough mass there that if you need to practice by taking 2 or 3 heats on the same piece, you could still reduce it quite a bit in cross section. I'm going to flip it over. See, I rotated it. So that's the other thing about the fire control and the heat in the work. There may be hotter and colder places in the fire. And if you've got a thick piece, it may also be that one piece is heating faster than the other. And one way to help with that is to rotate the piece in the fire. This is about ready. You can see the color change. Right, there we go again. You're not hitting this as hard as you can, because forge welding, if it's got the right temperature, it does not take a huge amount of effort to get those two pieces to stick together. Now, unless you really want to forge a shape and take advantage of that high heat to help you, what you want is fast, light blows that you can control. But right now, I'm mostly using my wrist. And I'm consolidating this . Now, if I wanted that little seam that you can still see there to disappear entirely, I have a train coming. Well, if I wanted that seam to disappear entirely, I would take another heat. Anyway, I'm going to take a break while the train goes by. Well, my noisy neighbors, the train, have gone by, and this is cooled down enough while I waited for the train that I'm now going to put it in the vise and cut it off with my portable bandsaw, just to show you that it is stuck together. Okay. I don't know if we need a neutral background or not, but I'll put that piece of cardboard there. Okay. That's the cut end. I don't know if you can see that clearly or not. You can see the little bit of welding scar, but there is no line across the cross section.